Are you struggling to turn your website visitors into paying customers? You're not alone. In today's competitive market, a well-optimized sales funnel can be the key to skyrocketing your conversions. In this video, our guest will reveal 5 powerful secrets that will transform your sales funnel and supercharge your sales performance. Whether you're a seasoned marketer or just starting out, these insider tips will give you the edge you need today. And our guest today is Michael Tucker. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome. Hey, how are you all doing? I'm so excited to be here.
No, we're definitely a pleasure. This topic is very close to Michael and I as we are trying to learn. So this is perfect timing. So can you tell us? I mean, obviously, when you're talking about sales funnels, it's a lot of sales and marketing. So tell us a little about your background and experience in sales and marketing.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I never thought I'd be working in the digital marketing industry, right? I'm probably like you all. You never thought, you'd maybe be where you are today. And so it started out, after college, and long story short, going through college, trying to find my way, asking, what do I want to do? When an opportunity to work in one of my friend's businesses came about, he said, hey, Michael, would you like to come help me in my business and I'll coach you? At the time, I needed a mentor, and I said, yes. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. It was in that business, working with that one friend that helped me learn about the digital marketing, the sales, and gave me this now passion that I have. And so, now we own a digital marketing and virtual event agency where we step in and help online entrepreneurs really just scale their influence and scale their income through virtual events and other digital marketing strategies. So never thought I would be there, but just through a series of events with a friend, give me one invitation is how I got here.
That's awesome. I'm curious, when you say virtual events, would you just go into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So we found whenever I first was diving in and helping that one friend, his name was David. I started working in his business for free. He was mentoring me. And I found that there's many, many different types of sales funnels, right? There's many different kinds out there. You can have ebook funnels. There's these book a call funnels. There's so many, especially if you dive into the world of like people that teach this, like Russell Brunson and things of that nature. But what we found was the ones that we really liked were event funnels, because people could come into our world. They could spend 60 to 90 minutes with us on a virtual event, maybe a webinar or an online seminar, as some people call them. And we could spend 60 to 90 minutes with them. And at the end of it, the level of trust and the level of credibility that we have with them was on another level. And so a virtual event funnel is where, primarily for us, where we pull people in via ads or organic outreach, and we get them to sit through some kind of training or some kind of class, right? With the goal of, at the end of it, we're selling them a software, a service, a product of some sort. And so that's what we fell in love with, and it actually led us to making $750,000 in just our first 10 months together in that business that I was helping David run. So we run many kinds of virtual events, which we can kind of get into as we go deeper. But just know that that's our favorite, and it's a little bit different for everybody, but it's one of my favorites.
Do you like it when the outcome goes into software sales, or for you, does it really matter what the outcome is?
Yeah, so for me specifically in my agency, it doesn't really matter. We have, people in different, multiple different industries. We have speakers, authors, software as a service companies, many different things. I'll say this though, I'm seeing it's really the underdog whenever it comes to software companies. So if you're here and you own a software company, it's crazy because you can hop on a virtual event, right? Or in a video and do live demos. You can really get them using the software. And one person, and I reference them a lot because they're amazing at it, is ClickFunnels. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. You can go to clickfunnels.com. Russell Brunson, that's how he grew that software, was getting people to use the platform over a series of 90 minutes or maybe even 2 or 3 days. And it exploded their sales. I mean, now they're a multi-million-dollar company, maybe even close to $1 billion in value. But I'll say that it doesn't really matter. Virtual events can work for any business, but yeah, I love it for those monthly recurring revenue models because they can be great.
Okay, sounds good.
Michael, so is that the experience that kind of got you to become an expert in sales funnel? Primary experience?
Yeah. I mean, primarily as we were working with David in his business, and I started seeing other people utilize it, which, a lot of the marketers, back 6-7 years ago, they were pushing, webinar funnels and seminar funnels were like the big thing. So like, that's what got us into it. Yeah. Was seeing that other people were doing it. So why not us? And, the first one or two we did, I'm going to be honest, we bumped our head. We didn't make any money. It was kind of discouraging, but because we decided to refine the process and get good at one funnel is, how we're here today. And a lot of people, I think they have shiny object syndrome. They go from marketing strategy to sales strategy, bounce back and forth, looking for the golden key, when in reality, they all work. It's marketing, right? Marketing is getting your message out in front of people who don't know who you are, conveying that message in a way that they want to learn more about your company and be pulled in, and then you working your sales process. So all the vehicles work. You just got to find one that works for you.
What were some of those early mistakes that you made?
Many, many of them. I think one of the ones that comes to my mind the most is, number one, trying to teach people and convey messages to them that was not pertinent to who they were. Meaning, we were crafting virtual events and we were all about value. And so many people today are like, you just have to give value. You have to give value. And for us, we thought we were giving value to people, but what we were actually was doing is overloading them with information that was, to be honest, pretty irrelevant to them, or maybe even it was relevant to them, but it was just too much. And so there's a difference. And I'll say one of the lessons from that is there's a difference between adding value, right, versus adding too much value. And so for us, it was because a lot of people, well, let me say this. A lot of people say it's all about the quantity. I need to give more in my virtual events or in my sales calls. I need to give them as much as possible. In reality, sometimes less is more. And so one of the big mistakes when we were first building our virtual events is we were given too much. And so once we realized that, hey, we can dial back, and it's not all about how much can I teach them, but it's more about how can I bring them into these virtual events and get them to have a transformational experience? How can I transform their belief system? Get them coming into this event thinking and acting one way, but when they leave, they're a completely different person. And so we decided from that time, we're going to take a more methodical approach to how we're teaching and what we're teaching. Sometimes we may want to teach on a topic, but it's not a good fit. We may have to cut it out. So I think that was the first one, and that was really what got us better results is when we refined that.
Yeah, because there is so much conversation out there about value. But if you give people too much value, it's a fire hose, and they may not be able to even take it all in, versus helping them actually feel like they already walked out with some sort of transformation. Because in that scenario, then they're believers, and theoretically now they're interested in the other value you could bring. So 100% makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I when I think about my own personal experience, when somebody's constantly adding value, I can't really use it. So it kind of disappears. It's like the perfect intersection of value and application. That's when for me is like impactful, because when I'm looking for something, information, and it's there, I'm like, okay, got it. Move on to the next step. When it's like all coming to me fast, it's just flying out. That's it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
and
good.
what happens is, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, it's good. You need to overload them with value, so they think they should work with you. And that's good in theory, but what happens is when you give them so much, a lot of times, there's certain personalities that do this more than others, but they go, wow, I can't do this. Like, this isn't for me. A lot of their minds switch to that because they just saying, hey, this seems like a lot. So it's like, hey, how can you said, find that sweet spot where you're giving them enough, right? But at the same time, you're still giving them room to apply it, but then room to work with you, and, room and giving them space to make that decision where they can lock arms with you.
Now, I'm curious though, would you still look at the same thing when it comes to the sales page itself? Do you think that on that page, people should be really thorough about describing like everything that you're going to get? Or do you think once more, because I've seen people take different approaches. Sometimes it's so detailed, and then other times it's just really high level. I know there's slightly different things, but I am curious, at that point in that sales journey, do you think more is better, or do you think actually not overcrowding it is better?
I think it depends on what you're selling, right? So I'll say for me personally, I like to have more, but it's not always more about the product itself, because what people make mistakes is they have a sales funnel and they just say, okay, let me load up all the details about this service, about this software, and they just list out every single feature, every single button that you have in your software. People don't really care about that. They care about the transformation you're going to bring. So if I'm going to have more copy and more videos and more pictures, I'm going to have testimonials. I'm going to have copy that shares the vision with them. So for me, I think, like I said, depending on, how long your virtual event is, how long your pitch is, I say majority of the times I have a good lengthy sales funnel, a good lengthy page, but it's really thought out, methodical, and helping overcome their objections, right? Because I know people are going to land on that page. They're going to have all these thoughts in their head. Well, I'm too young to do this. Or, right now is a busy season for me. There's all these things floating in their head. And so I'm going to craft copy that's like, hey, okay, I understand life is busy. So because of that, we're going to do X, Y, Z for you, right? And so we can lay all that out. So, does that, I hope that, would you say that would probably be for you all, like what you would see as well, or?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think I know a lot of people too dive into features also versus benefits, but I think you just nailed it again with transformation, which that's ultimately it on both scenarios. And I think that's what we all need to focus on more, because it is so, especially because we sometimes fall in love with our own solutions, that it's so easy to just want to tell everybody in the world and be like, look at all this great stuff. But once more, it's about the person on the other end and the transformation and what they're going to get from it, not necessarily you being proud of your baby, like a better way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a good segue, because I think we definitely want to get from you your top kind of 5 insider tips, secrets. I think we started there. But before we get there, I'm just curious if you could share what has been the most successful funnel for you from a revenue standpoint. Like, how much revenue did this funnel generate?
That's a great question. There's 2 in particular I can think of. And so whenever I say this, it's not that this was occurred in one week or one day, but it was over a series of time. We've had one client that we've ran the same virtual event. Let me say that. The same virtual event 6 times. I believe it is 7 times, 7 times. She does this event maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So this has been spread out over a couple years now. But I promise you this, we haven't changed a thing other than the speakers on the sales page has been the same thing. She's made over $10 million now with that funnel.
Wow.
I have another client we've made, which those are unicorns. I'm not going to say that's normal, right? She's very good at what she does. She's a great speaker. She's a charismatic leader, which is something we're going to get into here in just a little bit. We have another individual who's very similar. We've made probably close to 5 to 6 million over the course of 3 or 4 events with him. So it's definitely possible. I think one of the keys there is having a higher ticket product that people can ascend into, right? Because it's going to be a lot harder to make $10 million with a $10 product versus a $10,000 product. So ask yourself, if you're here listening, what products do I have that people can ascend into? Because if you're here and you're thinking, people will pay me $10,000, $15,000, yes, they will, as long as you have the product and you can guide them through the sales process, right? Like we teach, we can definitely sell that. So that's one of the main keys I'll give there, though.
And in both of those situations or those examples, were they in similar areas? Like, are you seeing that there's certain types of services or products that are selling more than others?
Yeah. So for each of those, they're a little bit different. One was a coach. So one is a coach, and she teaches people, investment strategies. And another individual, he is more of an advisor. So he offers advisor services for his clients. So kind of similar, but a little bit different in their models of what they're selling. But I know we've helped people take their SaaS businesses to, just starting out as baby businesses to, $1 million plus valuations. We've done a lot of amazing things, and it's not that hard with a SaaS company to do that with the right price points and things of that nature. But so long story short, you can find success with virtual events. Don't compare yourself to other people, though. Don't compare yourself to this $10,000 or $10 million person and be like, wow, I just made $100,000 last year with my virtual events. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's events are different. So just start where you're at, find a way to implement it, but know it's a process.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because too many people we're enamored by the lottery mentality of, oh, wow, yeah, we hear these, it's like the $10 million one, or even somebody who's like $1 million a year is like, wow. But what they forget is their story what it took to get to having those type of years. So we all got to work our way up there. And even in 100,000, I'm guaranteeing so many people listening to this now be like, I'd be down with
Exactly. I have a few clients. They had a few really good events, and they had like maybe a third or fourth event. Virtual events they're not always going to be the same, right? Just like any other funnel is not going to be always consistency as ads change and things. And I had several people that made really good multiple 6 figures or even 7 figures, and then they take a 20 or 30% decrease, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Listen, you all." $100,000, $250,000 is not bad for a week or two, So,
right? Amazing.
Sure. So, Michael, let's get into the meat of this. Like the first tip or secret, what would you say that is to make it high conversion funnel?
Awesome. Yeah. So this one's gonna seem pretty basic. Okay. So don't hit me in the face. Don't kick me whenever I say this. But
here comes a virtual pies, maybe.
Yeah. Don't throw any tomatoes at me virtually here. But this one's pretty basic. A lot of people, they skip the part of actually seeing what their clients, potential customers need, want. They skip out on saying, "Hey, where is their dream destination? How I can help them get there." And so what we do is, where we're starting building out a virtual event for a client, we say, "Okay, hey, what are your customers like? What are their pain points? What are they trying right now that's not working? What are they currently using software wise? If it's a SaaS company, like what softwares are they using right now?" And we do a lot of market research. Why? Because again, from my lesson back 6-7 years ago, when we were running our first virtual event, we were teaching and hitting on pain points that weren't even relevant, right? So we need to sit down and take time to actually think about their situation, because in our little business world, like Michael shared earlier, we tend to kind of float around in our own little world and often become numb to what other people are facing. And kind of like politicians, right? I'm not into politics, but a lot of times, because they're in their own little world, you guys know, they often forget what's happening out in the outside world, right? And so it's easy to get caught up in there. So that's number one, is you want to sit down and ask yourself those questions. And we can talk probably an hour on that alone. But what I like to do is get a piece of paper, and I'll just literally on a simple like note card or something, I'll sit down and say, "Okay, let me describe their current reality. Where are they at right now? So where's Jill at? Susan, where are they at right now? What are they experiencing? What are they happy about? What are they sad about?" And then on their side, I say, "Okay, what is the dream destination, the goal that they are striving to hit?" And so for people in maybe health and wellness, and maybe like, hey, they want to lose 20 pounds. They want to be able to run again with their grandkids. I describe the whole thing, and I get as detailed as possible. And then from there, that's when you can start building the event. You can build the event around those, so that whenever they see it, they're like, "Oh, that is for me. I have to attend that event. I have to show up for that, because they described me to a T." And I've only seen a few people do this in the past couple years, that I've read their headlines on ads, or I've read their funnel, and I'm like, "Oh, that's me." But when I've read it, I'm like, "Oh, this is good. I got to jump in." And so the people that really take time to do that, they'll stand out from their competition. Because I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of people running virtual events, a lot of people promoting their product and service. So this is how you kind of set yourself apart from the crowd and from your competition, is when you really get that dialed in.
By the way, I think that's anything that should get anything thrown at you. Anybody who has thrown anything would ultimately.
People want the shiny stuff.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I would say if they're throwing it, they're probably not going to be as successful in the space unless they can conquer that. I see it too, because I also help people in the short-term rental space, and one of the from a marketing standpoint, and in that scenario, one of the challenges that they frequently hit is they don't have any clue who their customer avatar is, or who they generally attract, and therefore none of their copy, nothing speaks to them. So it's a huge, huge mistake. And I think that goes to humans and the human level in general, even when it comes to anything we want in our lives. You can't approach it with what you want. You got to approach what they want, and then you're more likely to actually get to your outcome. So, no, huge.
One of the best ways to do that, y'all, is surveying existing customers. I actually was sitting in a mastermind with like 7 and 8 figure business owners recently, really successful people. And one guy shared, and I was like, this was a light bulb moment for me, because I've always done it unintentionally. Like I've always kind of like gotten feedback from people, but I realized there's a lot of people that don't have a process or system in their business built out to where they're actually collecting data from their customers, right? And that's important. And so ask yourself here today, how can I maybe send out surveys, or have somebody on my team? If you have an experience, if you have a build out business that's already doing well, how can you have somebody dedicated on your team to, have customer management and making sure that you are collecting, key data like we're talking about? Because never assume you know what they want. Never assume you know what they need. You need to go to the source themselves. And there's some information you can get without them, just by reading between the lines and, feeling what other people, are saying through social media and things of that nature. But try to implement a strategy that you can get direct feedback from existing customers, maybe potential customers, maybe past customers. Get creative with it.
And what's your POV on leveraging AI for any of that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely AI. I use AI for everything, so definitely utilize AI to give you what AI thinks, but you got to remember AI can make mistakes too. That's just my opinion, so I definitely don't want to, and it depends on your industry, right? So Michael, you said you're in the short-term rental space, is that right?
It's one of the hats I wear.
Okay, cool. So for example, you may serve people that are in a certain area. I'm just making this up. Charlotte, North Carolina, right? You probably serve people nationally, but just theoretically, you may serve people in Charlotte, North Carolina. So AI may not be able to dive deep into the struggles of Airbnb or short-term rental investors in Charlotte, North Carolina. It could probably give you close data, but not exactly what they're dealing with whenever it comes to zoning, what they're dealing with coming to permits, right? So yes, I think I'm a believer in it until a point.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's the marriage between that and obviously the people themselves. So
yeah. So what's the second tip or secret that makes a very successful high converting funnel?
Yeah, I would say from there, once you actually have, that built, then you can actually start building the actual event machine, right? The actual funnel behind it all. And so I'll say number two comes the product, because once you have the actual data from the customers, you know what they want, they need, then you can actually start building that product. And so for me, I always work my way backwards through everything. I don't start at the beginning, I start at the end with that in mind. So I'll say, okay, what product or service will then go and fix that need, or what will help them get there faster? And so you may have multiple products. So you may have to ask yourself, okay, which one of these products hits them best, fits them best? It may be, a coaching program of some sort. It may be a one-on-one with you. It may be a certain level of your software that you own, right? And so you can go ahead and pick that product, that offering, we'll call it, because a product and offering are different. Build out the offering, and then from there, you can start putting in everything else in place. And so I think one of the things that separates a lot of super successful businesses and people I've worked with versus those that are kind of average are those that have great offerings and great products, right? And if you can really craft those in and come up with one that is irresistible, but not just irresistible because that's what everybody's talking about, but you create an offer that is irresistible plus actually transforms who they are and actually gets them results, man, you'll set yourself apart in this market, because there's so many scammers out there. There's so many companies that are average. And so commit to being great, commit to excellence. And I promise you, if you can do that and then make a good offering around it, man, it's going to be great. So number one, go ahead and find the customer data you need. Number two, let's create a great offering. And then from there, I pick which strategy I need to sell that product. Depending on your offering, what I do in my strategy is I build an event customized to that, meaning to sell a $100 product, I don't need to spend 5 days with somebody. So how we actually run a lot of our businesses, we run 5-day virtual events. You may say, Michael, that seemed like a lot. It is, but we're selling a higher ticket program. And I actually had a friend mention this to me before, and I don't know where he got it, but he's a very intelligent individual. He told me, he said, Michael, for about every hour that somebody spends with you, you have about $1,000 worth of buying power with them. Meaning about 1 hour that somebody spends with you, you have about $1,000 worth of trust. And he told me that. I was like, that makes sense. That's why people run webinars. And normally if they run a webinar, they're not selling a $20,000, $30,000 program. They're selling $1,000, $2,000, right? So that made sense to me. And so based upon your offering, we'll build out an event around that, right? So If you have $1,000, annual subscription, you probably only need an hour to 2 hours to sell that. So we may run a webinar, a master class, as some people call them. But if you're selling a $5,000-$10,000 program, we probably want to spend more time. We'll build out maybe a 5-day challenge, like we call it. And we can go into what that is later. But a 5-day virtual event where they spend more time with you. Because remember, immersion equals conversions, right? So the more immersion with us, the higher the chances of us converting them to a customer. That's kind of where I go for step 3.
Yeah, I have a question for you there. How much of the person's kind of personal brand plays into this? Like, Tony Robbins can say, yeah, we're doing a 5-day virtual event free. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for you. He's going to have 50,000 people join. If Michael and I try to do that, they're like, why the hell will we spend 5 days with you? Like, how do you balance this?
I guess I'm going to restate your question, because you said how much of your personal brand come into it, but you're essentially saying, how could I fill up my event if I don't have a big name like Tony Robbins, right? Yeah. I mean, ultimately where we're getting at. So there's different levels to the game, right? Number one, I'll say that no, you don't have to have a big audience or a big name like Tony, right? Personal brand is important for anybody, but that's not ultimately why people will jump into your event. They're in your event. Remember, going back to step 1 on getting to their dream destination. If you can help them, like, for example, I have a lady that we worked with. She teaches people very specific health practices, meaning that she works, I can't remember the name of it because it's been a while since we worked with her, but she works with certain people that have certain diseases and certain, things they're dealing with in their body. And then she runs events to them. She targets them. She was a nobody, but because she has a special formula for a special set of people, they looked at her and said, I have to go here, right? She can make me better. And so, number one, David, when we first started, that $750,000 that we made in 10 months, David is, no offense to him, but he was a nobody. I was a nobody. So I don't think it's important at all when you run this. I think more importantly is the machine that you build behind it, and then the wins you can get for them along the way.
And I think what you mentioned on that, even with the Tony Robbins example, it's like, well, Tony, nobody's going to go to him for that very specialized health thing that you said. So you can be an expert without being a Robbins.
Right.
One more thing that you had just said that I want to get clarity on. Can you define the difference in your eyes between product and offering? Because I do think some people get those mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, great question. So a product is the deliverable, right? What you're actually giving them, the software itself, the coaching program itself. That's the product. But the offering is how you present that to the customer, meaning how you price it, how you package it. Are you putting bonuses in with it? That's very high level, is the encompassing, let me say that, presentation of that pitch, right? And so many people forget that the product has to be great, but on top of that, the offering and how you position it has to be great as well. So 2 separate things are very minor. One is more of the deliverable, while the other is more of how you package up that product to sell.
It makes sense. And some people may take the same product and package it differently, because that way that they package it out, they may package it for different markets for that matter.
Yep. Yeah. It's like having a we'll just make this up, random product, having a car, car salesman, they always have these big Black Friday offers or New Year's offers, right? Same product, is still the same car, but they're doing different offerings based upon the season. So I like to use that example because it's a little bit more easy for people to connect with. But
sweet. All right. I think we interrupted. You hit immersion is conversion, the 1 hour per 1K. What was coming next?
Next, and once you know that offering, you build that out and you pick your event, what you're going to do is you're actually going to build out and start building the marketing machine, right? So now you know which event style you're going to go. Hey, I'm going to pick a webinar, for example, or a masterclass. Now you're going to work on getting people in the room. And this is where so many people, they struggle. They say, I don't know how to get people in the room. Listen, there's so many ways. We have social media, we have paid marketing. You have to decide what your strategy is going to be. I'll say this, if you're just starting out and you don't have a big ad budget, start out using things like your social media that you already have, your email list, your text list, use your partnerships. Partnerships is how we grew David's business tremendously. And that's the only thing we did. He didn't have an email list. He didn't have a text list, didn't spend a dime on marketing, but we leveraged other people's audiences to grow ours and to grow our business. And so that's a little hack there, is that a lot of our most successful, partners or clients, you want to call them, they're utilizing other people's audiences, saying, okay, what resources do I have? What resources do I not have? And how can I collaborate with other people to fill the gaps, right? So for us, David, we didn't have an audience. We had a great product. We have a great offering once we got it dialed in. And we said, okay, but now we don't have an audience. But who does? And so one hack we give to people is find other people that, really, really work well with your niche. Meaning, so Mike, you're here with short-term rentals. One person that you could maybe partner with is people that taught, just making this up off the top of my head, people that taught flipping, right? Hey, what are you going to do with all this money that you make from flipping houses, right? You got to put it somewhere. You got to park your cash somewhere. We're going to teach you how to buy short-term rentals. So very, very similar to that, you could do it in other niches. Hey, if you're a health professional, find maybe a nutritionist. Like if you're a coach, a fitness coach, find a nutritionist you could partner with that maybe has your audience. Cross-pollinate and find ways to fill up your events. And depending on which event style you go with, whether it's a 1 day or a 60 and 90 minute masterclass versus a 5-day event, the strategy to fill up that room is going to be a little bit different. But I'll say find whatever you can, whatever creative way you can to get people in the room, because I know once they experience your message, once they experience what you do, they're going to fall in love with you. So we just got to get them in the room no matter what.
How do you feel about virtual summits as a way to expand your audience by, in essence, sharing lists?
Yeah, I love it. That's actually how I got started out. So virtual summits, in theory, is where you're going to pull a bunch of speakers and experts in one area together for one event, and then you leverage their list, like Mike was just saying, or you're gonna maybe some of them won't even shoot it to their list, but because they have credibility, people will see them and want to come to your event at a higher level. So yes, I love it. We've utilized that many times. I say take a gauge right now. So as like a practical step, take a gauge and see where you're at right now in your business. Where are you just starting out? Like, are you just getting the reins on your business, or do you have experience? Because if you have experience, you have, a decent list, you have some of the things, maybe you want to dive into paid marketing, right? Because there's a lot of benefits. We have people that are spending $100,000 on ads, but they're making back $300,000 to $400,000, right? So really find what works for you, take assessment. And then lastly, I'll say this: once you figure out ways to get people in that event, take some time and really focus on actually delivering that event in a way that's going to give them results. We talked about that at the beginning, but you get them there, right? Which we could talk about all the email strategies, we could talk about all the sequences, but actually make sure that event is going to provide a transformation for them. And remember, it's not just about the content like we mentioned earlier, but how can I break down any self-limiting beliefs they have? And don't tell them, hey, you have a self-limiting belief, because they don't even know what that is. But we know what that is. Help them break that down. Help them overcome the things that have been stopping them from getting to where they want to go, and make sure that event is one of the most amazing events they have attended. And if you can do that, they'll leave saying, hey, I want to tap in with Joe or with Jordan. I gotta find a way to work with them. And that's just what we've done. We've done that over and over and over again. We haven't overcomplicated it like many people do. We just rinse and repeat. And there's details in between the lines that we could talk about, right? Like making sure that you have good communication strategies leading up to the event and after the event. But so many people, they get caught with analysis paralysis because they think they have to have everything figured out. But you all just take massive action fast,
and then be willing to adapt and change it. What works and what doesn't work. I'm curious on one other thing when you mentioned the 1 hour, convert for 1,000 roughly speaking. Well, when it is higher than that, while you can spend more time, like you said, in maybe a multi-day event, at what point do you feel people should be getting on an actual call with somebody in order to close that sale?
Yeah, so I think there is a fine line, right? It depends on your product that you're you're selling, right? A higher ticket product, we're sending them to a salesperson after that event, right? If we're selling a 10, 20, $30,000 program, they're going to have some things they need assistance with, right? They're going to have questions. So I think just depending, we like for our sales team to be involved in all events, right? Even if it is a 1 hour event, even if it is a 5-day event, we like to, use them differently in each event, right? For example, a 1 hour masterclass, we're not going to need to go book people on their calendars, but we'll use the sales team to follow up to try to bring extra sales after the event, right? But then on the flip side, for a longer event where we're selling a higher ticket product, we'll have them, definitely maybe go book a call with our team to talk about those services or products, since there's a bigger barrier to entry. So yes, if you have a sales team, this is one of the best ways to feed them. By the way, our sales team love our events because people come in hot on their calendars, people are excited about it, and it's like the perfect scenario for them.
Michael, one last question before we kind of wrap this up. You talked about analysis paralysis, and I've seen a lot of people, and I've been guilty of it myself, where you might have everything you talked about kind of planned out, but you're just starting out, you don't have a team, and you get caught up or stuck around kind of the tool sets to use around all this stuff. Can you very quickly rattle off, like, what are the tool stack that kind of you use for your business?
Yeah, really good. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's okay to start out simple. A lot of people think they have to start out complex. You can make a virtual events as complex or as simple as you want. If you're just starting out, start out simple. And so, but the one tool we use a lot because it does so much is a software called High Level. So you can go to gohighlevel.com, very easy to use. You can build out sales funnels, landing pages in there. You can text people, email people from that one platform. It's an all-in-one solution for a business. So I recommend that one because it's so easy to use, and it has everything you need for very, very affordable cost.
Awesome. Where can people find you if they have more detailed questions or they need help?
Yeah, you can go to social media, look us up on official Michael Tucker. I'm on there. You can go ahead and shoot me a message and let me know you came from the show. I'm sure the guys would appreciate that, and I would as well. But if you just want to have a virtual coffee, because I'm always open to that, just go to thefunnelpros.com. Thefunnelpros.com. We can have a talk, see which virtual event strategy works for you. And I'm going to be honest, there's no sales pitch. It's just us talking. I'm going to give you some advice to see what you could do or what you shouldn't do. And if it's a good fit, we have some kind of service or somebody that can help you, we'll direct you that way.
Awesome. We'll make sure to, plug those in the description of the episode. And please, if you guys watching or listening have any other additional questions or feedback, drop them down and we'll get them to you. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.